class that I teach and a lot of the presentations that I make, because people still get this one wrong. The optimizer is looking at a query and looking at a query tree and trying to determine the fastest way of getting data back. It used the statistics that are kept in the sysstatistics and systabstats tables in order to determine how big the table is, what the join order should be, what the distribution of data is, whether it should or shouldn't use indexes. Non-clustered indexes can be a major performance hit if you're going after too much of the data. It makes that type of determination. One of the ways we can identify that we have statistics problems is listed right here. The query is great about 98% of the time, but 2% of the time it just takes forever. This is a normal type of thing to happen. It's not that often, but it's not that unusual either. When this happens, generally your stats do not have enough granularity to make the decision for that particular query. When we update stats, this frequently, you've got a problem, but as often as your data skews, that's how often you need to update your stats. So in this type of situation, the problem's in the histogram. Now, the default histograms are generally pretty good. If you're really big databases, well, you know how much of the information you're going after, and sometimes in the relatively small databases it makes a difference, especially if your ranges of data can very easily skew from a couple of pages to a couple of million pages to a couple of billion rows. When you're running this, make sure you do an update index stats rather than just an update stats. The update index stats update stats on every column in the index. Update stats only does it on the leading column. This is a significant enough difference that I've been at a couple of shops where changing the update stats to update index stats a significant performance benefit, and that's all we had to do to make things a lot faster. Note that if the update index stats is taking a lot longer than the update stats, well, this is kind of a normal thing, because what the server is doing is for each of the columns in the index, it is identifying and sorting through the data. One of the things you can do is reduce the sampling level. As far as the sampling goes, in just a second, you don't have to sample 100% of your data to get good numbers. Now, as far as the number of distribution steps that you get, there is a number of distribution steps and there's a histogram tuning factor. In early days, when we were doing performance and tuning, we would frequently just arbitrarily change the default of 20 steps to a default of 200 steps. And we called crazy, but interestingly enough, the default is 2 steps. And every once in a long while, for a particular table, we'll increase it to 500, but 200 is a good number, especially with the tuning factor. The idea behind the tuning factor is that at update stats time, the optimizer, the server, has the ability to say, you know, I clustered very heavily around this histogram step. Let's create some additional information around it so that as we get close to this step, we can get more granular and make better estimates. In general, I leave that one alone. The default is 20 for that. And keep in mind that if we have 2 distribution steps and 20 tuning steps, we have the ability to have as much as about 4,000 steps of information, which is generally more than enough for any type of situation, because what you're looking at is what is my granularity here, what percentage of the table am I going after, and about how many rows. We're really not trying to graph out all the 3 points for purposes of calculating rocket ship re-entry into the atmosphere. So if the performance is occasionally still erratic, set the step higher. I tend not to touch the tuning factor, but I'd like to be aware that it's out there in case, somebody messes with it and sets it to 0. For those of you with large databases or large tables, the sampling technology is a good idea with sample equals. A friend of ours, whose opinion we trust and who did co-author my last performance and tuning book, with Sybase ran some significant performance tests, and he told us that when they had the sampling rate as low as about 10%, the optimizer made the same decisions as when they were sampling at 100%. Now, I tend to be a little bit suspicious of results that are created in a lab until I actually try it myself and apply it to real life. But I've been as low as about a 25% sampling without having any significant problems, and go with that makes me just sort of a little nervous. It's paranoia, but who's how well the sampling algorithm works? And 25% works fine, and it's times faster than sampling at 100%. You can certainly drop that below 25 and try at a sampling rate of 10%. It'll certainly make your update stats run faster because we're sorting a lot less data. Give it a shot and think about that, but do make sure you run your update stats one way or the other. It also has a job scheduler available to it. This is really not as new as you'd think. It came about in version 12.5 and I suspect to complaints that Sybase didn't have its own built-in scheduling because, quote, other DBMSs do, unquote. And so they put the job scheduler together, they put a lot of templates together, and the stuff is out there and ready to use, but I haven't been in any shops yet that use it. Everybody that I deal with, I'd say about 95% in cron jobs, because those cron jobs have been running for years and years and years, if not decades. And to run these things are available pretty freely on the internet. Rob Verschure's site has a lot of really good stuff in it. But if you don't have that, other 5% probably Control M. If the other 5%, if you want to set something up, you don't have Control M, you don't like cron for some reason, well, you've got the ability to use Sybase's job scheduler. Things you want to schedule: DBCCs, database backups, update stats, lots of other things, all the stuff you'd do in a standard preventive maintenance regimen. If anybody's interested, I could do a preventive maintenance regimen for one of these talks. Send a note over to ISUG or to Dan and say, hey, I'd like to see a preventive maintenance talk. Okay, because MDA tables. MDA tables became available mid-12.5, and what they do is give us the ability to do some monitoring and diagnostics. Now, from a practical standpoint, there's stuff you can't get any other way. Find out what queries are running, what the plans are that they're using, how often they're running, what resources they're using. After a query is run, it's too late. But the MDA tables, the monitoring and diagnostic tables, give you the ability to go in and ask the question, what's happened lately? Very, very cool stuff. There are a number of tools out there that do them automatically. They collect the information from the MDA tables. Now, the MDA tables are memory only, and as a result, they have a finite size, and things will pop off the end of that photo stack. If you want the stuff to be out there and accessible frequently, a lot of tools out there will do that for you. If you want a tool recommendation, send me an email separately or send a note to Dan, and we'll get information on recommendations out to you. But you can do this directly just by looking at the system tables and picking up a lot of very, very useful information. So, some people don't put the MDA tables out there. There's a perception there's a performance hit associated with these. Note that you don't have to enable all of the data collection. You can just implement a small portion of that. Now, made a comment which was, hey, if you're running at 95% of capacity, you don't want anything to the system. The catch is, for something like this, how do you find out what percentage of the system you're using? What's causing the 95% capacity? Can you find the one thing that's taking, 1.2 seconds, but picking up 9% of the actual work that's being done in your system? And I'm not pulling that one out of that. Without sort of monitoring, you simply can't figure that out easily. You're guessing, and the guess isn't always right, and it can drive you nuts. So, monitor one way or the other, pick it up. With the MDA tables, with 15, I think they're installed automatically when you do your 15 installation. If it doesn't, there's a nice script over on, again, Rob Verschure's site. They'll get that set up. It can hit the system up to 5% of CPU if you've got everything turned